Welcome to Frost and Sullivan's Growth Podcast. In each episode, we are taking a deeper look at transformative shifts shaping global ecosystems, from industry megatrends and technology innovation to evolving customer expectations. Today, we are exploring the top growth opportunities in the global vehicle leasing industry, based on Frost and Sullivan's recent growth opportunity analysis covering the period from 2024 to 2029. The vehicle leasing industry is heading toward USD 520 billion in total revenue by 2029, and the competitive dynamics are shifting fast. We are covering what is accelerating this growth, the strategic imperatives reshaping leasing business models, and where the most compelling opportunities are emerging, from EV leasing solutions and digital fleet management to high potential regions in Latin America, Asia Pacific, and the Middle East. Stay tuned. The short answer: ownership is becoming a liability. Corporates are increasingly choosing full service leasing because it removes the asset risk, operational overhead, and capital lock in that come with owning a fleet outright. Businesses are treating vehicle access as a service rather than an investment, and leasing providers are benefiting directly from that mindset shift. A few forces are making this accelerate right now. First, total cost of ownership awareness is rising sharply. When companies run the numbers on fleet maintenance, depreciation, compliance, and administration, ownership stops making financial sense for most of them. Second, ESG and decarbonization mandates are pushing fleet operators towards structured, managed transitions. And leasing is the most practical way to handle that without absorbing residual value risk on a rapidly evolving EV asset class. Third, small and medium enterprises are entering the leasing fold in larger numbers because leasing keeps mobility simple and off the balance sheet. And the fourth driver is generational. Millennial and Gen Z fleet managers are gravitating towards subscription-style contracts over long-term asset commitments. That behavioral shift is already showing up in contract preferences across major markets. Which of these growth drivers is most aligned with your organization's current fleet strategy? Now let's look at the strategic layer. What is actually changing how leasing providers are competing and operating? Three imperatives are standing out. The first is disruptive technology. AI, telematics, and digital fleet management platforms are fundamentally changing how contracts are priced, how residual values are forecasted, and how fleet utilization is managed. By 2030, automated fleet lifecycle management is expected to become the industry standard, which means providers still running on legacy IT systems are already working from a structural disadvantage. The second imperative is the decarbonization megatrend. Regulatory pressure is forcing corporate fleets to electrify, and EV leasing solutions are emerging as the primary mechanism for managing that transition. EV leasing share is on track to more than double by 2030 in mature markets. A massive shift in the product mix that every leasing provider is having to prepare for. The third is an internal challenge: the skills gap. Legacy IT systems are limiting scale and innovation, and there is a widening shortage of expertise in EV fleet management and data analytics. The gap between leasing leaders who are investing in capability and those who are not is opening up faster than most anticipated. Is your organization structuring its growth pipeline around these critical imperatives, or are you still operating from a contract-first mindset? With approximately 320 providers competing globally, the vehicle leasing industry remains highly fragmented, but concentration is accelerating. The top 5 players, Ivans SA, Volkswagen Financial Services, Arval, Leasis, and Oryx Corporation, collectively hold 22.2% of global revenue. And the pace of consolidation is picking up. The ALD Automotive acquisition of LeasePlan to create Ivans is a clear signal. Mergers and acquisitions are now a primary growth lever, not just a financial exercise. At the same time, OEM captive finance arms are entering the picture aggressively, undercutting independent lessors on pricing and compressing margins across the board. What this means is that differentiation can no longer rest on contract terms alone. Service depth, digital capability, and EV readiness are becoming the real competitive differentiators. And providers that are not investing in these areas are going to find themselves squeezed from both sides. Now let's get into the specific opportunities that leasing providers and fleet operators are actively building strategies around. The first is EV leasing for corporate fleets. Corporate EV adoption is being pushed by regulation, the UK's ZV mandate, the EU Green Deal, and similar frameworks across major markets. Full service EV leasing is emerging as the dominant response because it lets fleet operators transition without absorbing residual value risk or charging infrastructure complexity. Ivans is already deploying a battery health certificate to provide RV assurance. Arval is running a full EV consulting suite, guiding corporates through fleet electrification decisions. And the Amazon Rivian Fleet Partnership is showing the commercial viability of electric LCV leasing at scale. The second opportunity is digital fleet management as a revenue driver. What used to differentiate leasing providers, instant approvals, online signups, unified dashboards, is now the baseline expectation. The real competitive opportunity is in building integrated ecosystems, telematics, renewals, predictive maintenance, and driver apps on a single platform. Arval's digital hub is already demonstrating that this approach drives both retention and cross-sell revenue. Partnerships with companies like Geotab and Samsara are enabling predictive maintenance and fleet optimization, and those capabilities are also opening new revenue lines in insurance add-ons, maintenance subscriptions, and usage-based billing. The third opportunity is geographic expansion into emerging regions. While Europe remains the largest contributor to global leasing revenue, the fastest growth is coming from elsewhere. Latin America, particularly Brazil and Mexico, is seeing expanding SME adoption, improving credit access, and rising demand for fleet outsourcing. Asia Pacific, with South Korea and Australia as key entry points, is being driven by middle-class premiumization and EV financing demand. And in the Middle East, markets like India, UAE, and Saudi Arabia are actively shifting from ownership as a status signal to leasing for operational efficiency, creating significant fleet electrification potential in the process. Are you positioning your organization to capture growth in the regions that are moving fastest? Leasing providers that are leading right now are doing a few things consistently. They are building EV transition capability before mandates force their hand, developing RV assurance frameworks, EV consulting practices, and charging infrastructure partnerships that reduce the friction for corporate customers. They are treating digital fleet management as a revenue platform rather than a service enhancement, building ecosystems that generate subscription revenue, data monetization, and cross-sell income across the fleet lifecycle. And they are actively scouting emerging regions with structured entry strategies rather than waiting for those markets to mature before committing. The providers still anchored in contract pricing competition are being squeezed from above by OEM captives and from below by agile digital-first entrants. The window for repositioning is open, but it is narrowing. Thanks for joining us on Frost & Sullivan's Growth Podcast. For access to our research, competitive benchmarking, and best practice frameworks, head over to frost.com or email us at hello@frost.com. We'll be back soon with more to help you stay clear-headed and growth-ready.